Welcome to another edition of Don Hammond's Arlington Weekly News. Once again, I'm doing a variety of different character voices because I'm in this terrible creative rut. Here's the lineup for this week. The news, of course, Community Bulletin Board, and 55 Plus News. We'll also have a little more news, but with some commentary. That's the show. Now, here's the social media reminder. You can watch us on YouTube at Arlington Weekly News and the number 1, also on Facebook, and you can listen on the radio at WERA 96.7 FM. Now, on to the news.
Here is some very local news. There is still time to celebrate 5 years of community radio in Arlington. Yes, 5 years ago, Arlington Independent Media launched WERA 96.7 FM with the firm belief that our friends and neighbors in Arlington deserved their own radio station. We felt that commercial radio stations weren't doing enough to cover the events, people, stories, and culture that define one of the most diverse and innovative communities in the country. We believe that WERA producers have filled that void with thousands of hours of entertaining, innovative, and uniquely local programs that can't be created anywhere else. WERA is currently holding its Winter Fund Drive, so please help us celebrate our 5th birthday by making a tax-deductible gift that will help support local voices in your community for years to come. The drive will run through December 19th. Just go to WERA FM and click the donate button in the upper right corner. It only takes a minute, but it will allow us to continue to bring distinctively local voices to the airwaves. We simply can't do it without your support. Thank you. Next item. As of Sunday evening, December 6th, reports show the number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in Arlington had reached 6,792. Regular viewers and listeners will note the intensified increase in our reported case numbers. Next up, Arlington County's Department of Environmental Services posted a reminder on social media about which items are and are not recyclable. For example, there is the festive red paper cup containing your peppermint mocha. DES put it this way: festive? Definitely. Recyclable? Nope. The slick lining in single-use takeout coffee cups means they need to go into the trash. Alas, the tops too, because of their mixed plastic. Unquote. The issue is not unique to Arlington. Paper Starbucks cups are rejected by most recycling systems due to the difficulty in separating the paper from the lining. There are other seemingly recyclable things, despite their recycling logos, that are not recyclable in Arlington's single-stream residential recycling collection. Those non-recyclables include plastic bags, such as garbage bags and grocery bags. Also non-recyclable, shredded paper, paper plates, and boxes soiled by food or grease, as well as disposable Solo cups, and, you guessed it, styrofoam containers. As for glass, it should be dropped off at the purple bins located around the county. Arlington's website has a more complete list of items that can be recycled. Aluminum products like cans, foil, and trays are actually favored. Arlingtonians who live in condos and apartments are served by private haulers who may have different rules about what can and cannot be recycled. The above message applied to Arlington's residential recycling collection, which mostly serves single-family homes in the county. We received another announcement from Arlington County, and we quote, "On December 10th, the board will consider accepting 2 state grants totaling $660,000 to help prepare for the mass distribution of COVID-19 vaccines when they become available. If accepted, the money would be used to hire temporary medical and non-medical staff, cover travel costs and costs of renting facilities and operating clinics, and other costs associated with vaccinating Arlingtonians." End quote. As of our reporting deadline, we do not yet know the board's decision, but it's difficult to imagine them refusing. We'll update this story next week. And that's most of the news. We will have more news with commentary later on. But now it's time for Community Bulletin Board, or CBB.
Hi, and welcome to CBB. Here's an event for kids in 7th and 8th grade. It's from the Virtual Science Fiction and Fantasy Book Club, and this one's called Everything Elves. The titles for this month are Aragon by Chris Paolini, The Assassination of Brangwain Spurge by M.T. Anderson, and A Boy Called Christmas by Matt Haig. Due to limited availability, participants should only choose one of these 3 titles to read and discuss. Registration is required because the group will then send participants instructions by email the day before the meeting. The platform used will be Microsoft Teams. You can register on the library website. That's coming up on Wednesday, December 16th from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock p.m. This event also repeats on Friday, December 18th from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock p.m. Next up, do you miss talking about books with other book lovers at the library? I mean, assuming that you don't talk too loudly, of course. Well, here's an event for adults as well as kids in 6th grade and up. It's called Lunch with a Librarian, and it's a chance to get a 30-minute book buzz from your favorite librarians. They suggest you bring your favorite caffeinated pick-me-up, but I think you can get along with good old enthusiasm just as well. You'll get to hear about the favorite reads of the librarians and also afflict them with your favorite book pun. Then they'll suggest some books for you just to show there's no hard feelings. Registration is required, so register on the library website. They'll email you with the Zoom information. That's coming up on Thursday, December 17th from 12 noon to 12:30 p.m. Now here's something for families from the folks at Parks and Recreation. They're telling you to go wild because this event is called Wild Virginia, Aquatic Life. It's about specific groups of wildlife that live right here in Virginia. You'll get the answers to questions like, what animals make their homes underwater? Are they slimy, scaly, or creepy? And several others. Registration is required because the group will then send participants instructions by email the day before the meeting. The platform used will be Microsoft Teams. Of course, you'll want to have your device ready before the program starts. You can register online or call 703-228-4747 and mention activity number 622951-M. That's on Thursday, December 17th from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock p.m. Finally, in CBB, here's a program for kids between the ages of 3 and 5. It's called Winter Greens, and it's part of the preschool's programs that are repeated at each nature center during the month. Registration is required, and caretakers must also register and stay with their child during the program. You can register online or call 703-228-4747. Just mention activity number 622811-D. That's on Saturday, December 19th from 10 o'clock to 10:30 a.m. at Gulf Branch Nature Center and Park, 3608 North Military Road. Yes, another chance to get out of the house. Now it's time for 55 Plus News.
Howdy, and welcome to 55 Plus News. Well, it turns out that you can still go outside and walk, even if it's on Beethoven's birthday. The 55 Plus program has issued an invite to stay active with friendly walking companions. Of course, they also say that walks may be canceled for inclement weather, but remember, Beethoven himself was reportedly also canceled during a bout of inclement weather, so there you are. But go on and take a chance. You're still younger than he is. Register online or call 703-228-4747, activity number 912-20105. That's coming up on Wednesday, December 16th from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock a.m. at Bluemont Park, 601 North Manchester Street. Now, pay close attention to that address because it's a couple of blocks away from the Bluemont tennis courts on Wilson Boulevard, and I wouldn't want you to miss out. Then, after you've rested from your walk, you can take part in Open Mic Online. It's a local talent show for folks 55 and over. Remember Major Bose? Remember Ted Mack? Remember The Gong Show? Well, forget about The Gong Show. You'll be safe on this one. The host will be Carl Gold, and they can't throw tomatoes at you online. They can't hit you anyway. Even if you don't participate, you can still watch and have some fun. Just register online or call 703-228-4747 and mention activity number 912802-2. In case you forgot, that's also coming up on Wednesday, December 16th from 1:30 to 2:30 p.m., and it is a virtual event. And by the way, I just checked online and they do still make Geritol. Next up, do you suffer from a chronic pain? I know I do. He's the show's producer. Well, they say that many of us must deal with chronic pain, often caused by a variety of different physical ailments. Of course, managing persistent pain can be emotionally draining and stressful. Well, now you can get some help from Jean Meyer, LSCW, from the Virginia Hospital Center. She'll present a discussion about non-drug strategies for coping with the emotional toll of chronic pain. Register online or call 703-228-4747. Activity number is 912500-2. That's on Thursday, December 17th from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock p.m., and it's a virtual event. Finally, sort of, are you looking for more variety in your life? Well, how about tuning in for a live special in the form of a variety show? Even though COVID has changed a lot of plans for this season of warm gatherings, camaraderie, and celebrations, you can still check out this heaping helping of comedy, entertainment, holiday treats, prizes, and more. Register online or call 703-228-4747. That's activity number 912803-1. And it's coming up on Friday, December 18th from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock p.m. and it's another virtual event, of course. Well, that's about enough 55 plus news. Now, I gotta say something about the county board's town hall meetings. The last meeting they actually held was on Friday, October 30th, and here we are in December. The last schedule I heard about was that they'd have a meeting every 2 weeks, but the November 13th meeting was canceled. Then the whole county government took off the day after Thanksgiving, so there was no town hall meeting then. Now, I thought they might have a make-up meeting on Friday, December 4th, but that didn't happen either, and we don't get notices about these cancellations. Now, to be fair, the county board did broadcast a COVID-19 briefing on November 10th, but without taking any questions from citizens. That means that as far as Arlington residents were concerned, the month of November had no chances for them to ask questions and get answers. With the reported increase in COVID cases in recent weeks, this is the time when we'd want to ask more questions, not less. Now, I don't want to beat up on anyone in particular, and I'm sure that the board has a lot of other things to deal with, but it seems like most of those other things aren't killing folks the way COVID is. It's high time the board came back online to really interact with their citizens. Well, I've piped up enough. Now we're going to get back to some more news and more commentary.
Some more news and some commentary. This announcement is a little bit strange. It says, New Residential Permit Parking Program Public Hearing on December 10th. The board will hold a public hearing on whether to advertise a public hearing for its January meeting on a proposed new Residential Permit Parking Program, also known as an RPP program. Arlington adopted the RPP program in 1972 to prevent commuters from parking in Arlington neighborhoods. At least since the early 1990s, the county has not allowed residents of some apartments and condos to petition for RPP restrictions on the streets where they live, nor to obtain permits to park on those streets. During a lengthy review that began in 2017 and has included extensive public engagement, staff has studied possible improvements in the program's efficiency, user experience, and fairness. The proposed new program is based on community input, analysis of the current program, and parking data collected in 4 study areas around the county that cover 59% of all streets with RPP restrictions and surrounding streets without restrictions. Proposed changes include expanding how many households would be eligible to petition for restrictions and join the program, while continuing to restrict residents of site plan and use permit buildings from receiving RPP permits. Linking the maximum number of annual permits a household in RPP zones can receive to whether the household has off-street parking, and reducing the maximum number each household can receive, giving more options for short-term visitors and service providers, adding a limited number of permits for elementary, middle, and high school employees and employees of group homes, raising fees for permits and passes to end general tax support for the program while offering a discount for low-income households, changing the petition process by removing the out-of-area test while raising the thresholds for parking occupancy and the share of households supporting the petitions, and grandfathering only current RPP restriction locations and hours. They suggest that to read the staff report and learn about the community engagement that informed the staff recommendations, scroll to item number 36 on the published agenda. That's a lot to think about. We can't help wondering if the original purpose of all this, preventing commuter parking, has gotten lost in all of these other considerations. We have another comment to make based on observation. For residents of some neighborhoods, the existing parking restrictions make it very difficult for the resident to hold any celebrations involving more than a handful of participants, particularly if they are family members traveling from out of state. Areas in Clarendon and around Colonial Village and going on toward Roslyn provide notable examples of this problem. You can also look at the area on George Mason Drive south of Columbia Pike and wonder if what is really needed isn't just more room for people to park. In addition, the county sent out the following item: renaming Henry Clay Park to Zitkala Sa Park. The board will consider endorsing the Park and Recreation Commission's recommendation to rename Henry Clay Park at 3011 7th Street North in the Lion Park neighborhood, now calling it Zitkala Sa Park. The proposal was put forth by the Lion Park Citizens Association and is supported by the Neighborhood Conservation Advisory Committee and the Historical Affairs and Landmark Review Board. This renaming comes as the park is undergoing extensive renovation. When it opens in early 2021, it will reopen with its new name. Zitkala Sa, also known as Gertrude Simmons Bonin, was a nationally recognized Native American author and activist and a vocal proponent of citizenship rights for Native Americans. She and her husband, Raymond Bonin, lived in Lion Park from 1925 until her death in 1938. Their home still stands at the corner of 3rd Street North and Barton Street. A member of the Society of American Indians, Zitkala Sa became their secretary and then editor of their journal. She spearheaded the fight for Native American rights and reform on behalf of several organizations. In 1926, Zitkala Sa founded the National Council of American Indians, which advocated for Native American rights and representation before the United States government. They go on to say, to read the staff report, scroll to item number 18 on the published agenda. Now, this release seems to betray a certain amount of bias because it tells readers about who Zitkala Sa was, but leaves out any history about Henry Clay. It doesn't cite any reason for removing Clay's name, as has been the case with arguments about Robert E. Lee. So let's fill in some history. Most people who remember Henry Clay at all probably know him as the Great Compromiser, who attempted to stave off the Civil War by promoting the Missouri Compromise of 1820. To add to the historical record, here's a little more information. Henry Clay was born in Hanover County, Virginia in 1777 and started a legal career in Kentucky. In 1814, he helped negotiate the Treaty of Ghent, ending the War of 1812. Later, as Speaker of the House, he called for federal infrastructure investments and supported the National Bank. The Missouri Compromise, which allowed statehood for Missouri as a slave state in exchange for admitting Maine as a free state, followed soon after. The purpose was to maintain a balance between free and slave states. Clay unsuccessfully ran for U.S. President in 1824, 1832, and 1844. In 1850, he helped with the passage of the Compromise of 1850, which attempted to reconcile a conflict between free and slave states over recently acquired territories. Clay himself was a slaveholder, but he freed all of his slaves at the time of his death in 1852. Those who admire Clay can cite his attempts to preserve the Union. Those who do not can point out that his compromises actually helped preserve slavery in those places where it existed. Clay's compromises ultimately collapsed with the Civil War in 1861, 9 years after his death. Ms. Zitkala Sa's National Council of American Indians, Incorporated, ended in 1942, 4 years after her death. Without picking sides on the naming of a half-block park that was mostly just a playground before closing for renovations, we thought it journalistically fair to provide more complete information about both people. And that concludes this week's show. We will be back next week with more news from Arlington. Meanwhile, be careful, be safe, and be well. Well, after all that, let's have a nice Christmas lights slideshow with some pleasant background music.